Hi everyone, my name's Katie, welcome back to my videos. Today I'm going to talk to you about the basics of weaning, and the reason we're talking about this is because Aidan is now 5.5 months old and it's a really fun topic to talk about. As I mentioned, really back to the basics, what is weaning? So weaning is basically the introduction of solid, normal, everyday food that adults and older children eat. And basically it's a progression away from formula and breast milk. So the World Health Organization suggests that babies should be weaned from 6 months old, and that's because of multiple factors, including the risk of things like gastroenteritis in babies in third world countries. But in the UK, because this is quite rare, most babies are weaned from between 4 months and 6 months of age. So why is it important to start introducing solid foods to your baby from around 6 months? Basically, your babies have a certain amount of iron stores which only last up to around 6 months. After this, they start to deplete. And babies, because they're growing so quickly and their muscles are developing, they need extra things like protein and complex vitamins and minerals, which they just cannot get from breast milk and formula. So when is it a good time to start introducing solid food to your baby? And this is quite a difficult question to answer. So according to nhs.org, your baby should be able to do one of 3 things before you start weaning. Number 1 is to start sitting upright by themselves and be able to support their head. This basically means that they can swallow food and potentially not gag. Number 2 is being able to pick up things and put them in their mouth, so have a good eye, hand to mouth coordination. And around this time, babies lose their tongue reflex, which means that anything that goes in their mouth, they automatically push out with their tongue. From around this time, what they do is they start putting things to the back of their mouths to be able to swallow, such as food. Another really helpful little tip is to actually monitor your baby yourself and actually see when your baby is interested in food. So Aidan, for example, has been watching us like a hawk every time we eat. His eyes follow the food as if it's his last meal and he's never going to eat again. Way of your baby showing you that he or she is ready and interested in food that's not milk. So although there isn't actually any proof to show this, we found that weaning really helped us in 2 ways when it came to our daughter. So number 1, it really helped her sleep better. She ended up sleeping through the night for the first time when we started introducing her to solids. And number 2, it really helped with her silent reflux. Because food is heavier in the stomach, it was and ended up settling into her stomach a lot better, so she was less likely to bring up any sort of acid or any milk, which then made her a lot more comfortable. And we also think that also contributed to her sleeping better. As I mentioned though, there's no actual proof of this, and if you asked any professionals, they will tell you that there's no proof that solids do help infants sleep for longer, but it's just something that we found personally ourselves. So there are 2 main approaches to feeding your baby for the first time. Number 1 is purees or spoon feeding, and this is basically where you get your food, you blitz it all until it's a puree form or a really fine mush, and you can mix it with a bit of formula or breast milk and you feed it to your baby on a spoon. The second way that you may want to feed your baby is something called baby-led weaning, or finger foods basically. So anything that's in finger food form that you can put in front of them and they pick up themselves, they explore using their hands, they smell it, they taste a little bit, it encourages really good hand-eye coordination, and they feed themselves. We personally use a combination of the 2 with our daughter, and this is what we are planning on doing this time with Aidan. For me personally, I really found it nice to know that some food was getting in and going down and staying in. So I like the idea of purees because it meant that we can monitor and see it going down, and I know that was some food going in. Whereas baby-led weaning, sometimes they could take a chunk, they can spit it out, it goes on the floor. It's really difficult to monitor how much is going in them. But at the same time, we really like the idea of our babies exploring food and being able to touch and smell and taste, getting your babies to explore food and to give them a good, healthy attitude when it comes to tasting new food and trying new food when they get older. Ultimately though, it depends on what you want as a family and what works well for you. It could be that baby-led weaning is just easy because you've got multiple children and you're just batch cooking things and you're putting it in front of them. Other people like myself like to know that there's some food going in and it's staying down because they've got a refluxy baby and they need to know that there's food going into the tummy. So do whatever works for you. So what do you need as a person who's about to embark on weaning your child? So these are physical things, little items that I suggest you get hold of before starting to wean. Number one is to have a seat or a high chair ready. Now you don't probably need to do this maybe for the first couple of times of introducing food to your child, because you might want to sit the child on your lap for the first few feedings just to make sure that they're comfortable and they're nice and snug and they're not going to panic, and it makes you feel comfortable as well as the parent that's going to feed them. So it might be for the first few times you have them on your lap, but ultimately you want to get them into a seat or a high chair so you can start feeding them regularly. This doesn't have to be an overly complex thing. We got ours from IKEA and it is a very basic, very easy to clean, wonderful chair that's comfortable because it comes with like a little padded cushion that sits around him that will keep him upright. But for the first few times that we fed him, we've actually sat him in a bumbo seat which has like a little tray in front of him, and that keeps him really secure, upright, and it is a little bit more like compact than the big high chair. The second thing is to buy yourself a pack of soft spoons. So these are sort of rubbery type spoons that are quite shallow, and what I have started to do before introducing food to Aidan is actually giving him the spoon in the bumbo seat just to chew and play with and to figure out what it is in his hands for him to see and smell, so he just simply gets used to the spoon. If you're going to batch cook or batch puree things like I have done this time round, then getting yourself some little pots or ice cube trays is a really good way of filling it up and then bunging all in your freezer, and then you can defrost it and using it when you want. With Emily, what we did was we went on Amazon and we bought little pots with lids, and actually I found out since that these pots are actually used for condiments in takeaway shops, but it's exactly that. They're tiny little pots that were really cheap, really easy to get hold of. For each meal, it's a good idea to provide water for your baby to have a sip if he or she needs it, and we use the Tommy Tippy sippy cup, which is as basic and cheap as it comes. Bibs are also a really good thing to get your hands on, because when babies are first experiencing food, the food is going to go everywhere. In the beginning, we just used a soft fabric kind of bib because it was easy to get on. You just bung it in the washing machine after, but after a while you notice that this can be a bit frustrating because you're going to have to bung it in the wash each time, which is time consuming, and you've got to do a wash each time. So eventually, when baby might be a little bit bigger, having a plastic bib that you could easily wipe is probably the best bet, because you can reuse it really quickly and easily, especially if they then progress on to 3 meals a day where you're going to do lots of washing and things like that. But when Emily was really small, we actually got her almost like a full apron that covered the arms as well, because she was baby-led weaning as well. The food got everywhere, and I just found that washing her clothes after each meal was just too stressful. And finally, something that's not necessary but which I recommend is to have something like a messy mat or a plastic sheet that you can just pop the high chair on and let your baby go mad, because food will end up on the floor, water will end up on the floor. It's just going to be carnage for the first couple of months at least, and then you'll save yourself a whole load of floor cleaning, which is really helpful and really handy, especially when you've got multiple kids that you're running around after like me. So there you go, those are my basics for weaning. I will be posting a video after this about our first weaning experience and how Aidan gets on with eating food for the first time, so please check that out. But in the meantime, please like this video and hit the subscribe button so you get all the updates on Aidan and the rest of our family and how we're getting on, and we will see you next time. Bye.